right, that is just sort of a lead-in video. We've got I've got a great show for you tonight. I'm just going to flip things around here on my audio because if I don't flip that around, it's going to down that right now. And so waiting in the wings, we've got Stu Heydon, who is our special guest tonight, and Junior Leclerc, formerly of Q107, the host at the Rock Pile. Junior is very new to the show. This is like his second show with me, and he's joining Sean McKenna and myself as part of the mainstays on the Indie Show. So welcome, Junior. Here we go, buddy. There you are.
There I am. Hi, guys. Hi, Ken.
Awesome. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I've been almost busy.
I no doubt you're all over the place.
Well, I'm very, very fortunate that people have me part of their promotion and whatnot. So yeah, I was just with John Corby, of course, formerly from Motley Crue,
Right.
and Canada's own Russ Dwarf and his band at the Rock Pile on Monday.
And you're on the road a lot, so that brings me to a story an old friend of mine used to say. He used to say, "You're like horse manure in in an Amish community. You're always on the road."
Are you trying to say I'm full of shit?
I don't know if we'll say that or not, but definitely there'll be some stories tonight for sure
Yes.
as we join this fellow here, longtime blues legend.
Incredible. What a friggin' history on this man.
Yeah, this guy's got a great resume. He's been all around. He's now in Carmel, California. Without further ado, we'll just bring him on the show. Here he is. Hey, Stu, how are you?
There
How
he
you
is.
doing, guys?
I'm well, Stu. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. I had a good day. I had a couple real nice students and got to talk to the wife a bit before work, and everything's fine.
So you've checked in on all the important things. The wife is usually number one, Stu.
Oh yeah, without her, I ain't going far.
Well, there. How's things in Carmel, California?
Well, it's 60 degrees here.
Well, it's cold then.
Yeah, it's always cold here. This is what happens. The desert is just past the mountains where I am.
Okay.
And it heats everything up and it sucks all the cold air from the ocean.
Okay.
And so I get the cold air and the hot air is over in Arizona and stuff.
All righty.
Oh, wow. So is it always cool there?
In the summer, you got to wear a jacket.
Gee whiz.
Wow.
So we get our summer starting in September.
Gee. A little late almost.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty different than what you guys would experience. And
Right.
Sometimes it's warm right up a little bit by Christmas.
Okay.
Right. You got your start in music from Windsor, Ontario. Like that's kind of where you grew up, right?
Yeah, I was born in Windsor, Ontario, and my dad was a big band leader.
Right.
Stand-up comic and a singer and a trumpet guy.
Okay.
So he would have the Motown horn section in the front room when I was growing up because they didn't have any money and he could hire him for dog crap. And he could play the local church with them and stuff. And it was just amazing.
How could you not be affected by Motown with Detroit being just across the bridge, Stu? I mean, it's so awesome to no, sir, I have to pause you to hear somebody talk about Motown. Oh my God, that's awesome.
I saw Stevie Wonder for 25 cents.
You're not that old, Stu.
Oh, I did. I'm the same age as Steve. And he played at the church hall for 25 cents, and I bet there was 30 people there.
Wow.
He pantomimed fingertips with one of them little record players with the 45.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy.
So that's when I started the Motown thing.
So
sorry, Ken, go ahead.
Your actual music career started when?
1965.
Okay.
I was 15 years old.
Okay.
And
we used to practice. We used to practice in the basement of the church. And all the local Windsor musicians, we would all go there. And we got to know you know, each other, and then we would all split into bands as time went on. So I was there for pretty well the beginning of the rock thing. Like, you know, my brother ended up with David Bowie, and I went the blues thing, and I ended up playing Chicago Blues Festival and all that kind of thing.
Okay.
So your brother played with Bowie?
Yeah, my brother was
Wow.
Bowie's lead player for a while, and they were good friends. And so after that, my brother started to produce records because there was no money in playing.
Right.
I'll give you an example. My brother, you know, when they would tour in Europe, nobody in the band knew anybody in Europe, but they got front row tickets, right? The band.
Right.
Well, he would get the tickets off the band and he'd stand in front of the places and scalp them.
Oh, geez. So he can
That's
make
how
some
he
money.
made his money. He would scalp
That
them and they were front row
Wow.
seats. So he made a fortune scalping tickets. And then he'd be playing on stage, and all the people he sold tickets are going, "That's the guy that sold me the ticket."
that's
Yeah,
wild.
I
That
think this is
Stevie
what
Ray
we
Vaughan.
love I think this is what we love the most about the true stories of music. So when you talk
Yeah,
about
I know
the
a bunch of true stories. You know what I mean, man? Like,
well, I mean, we can play on the word the blues, Stu, but it truly is you're living the blues. My goodness.
oh, I did live the blues all my life.
Right.
All my life, I suffered a lot. I suffered a lot, and I
and you
traveled. I traveled like in an old Ford police van with
Oh,
no
did
window, and there was no handles on the inside because it was a police van. So I would stick the five guys and all the gear in the back, and Wild
right.
Child and I would drive in the front seats, eh? So
Wow.
they couldn't get out unless I got out of the truck and let them out, eh? So if they were misbehaving, I'd keep the bastards in there, you know?
Yeah, I remember we were talking with an artist not long ago, and they were talking about they were going on a tour out to the West Coast. This is in Canada in the middle of the winter, and they had to ride in the back of the truck with the equipment,
Yes.
and they near froze to death in the back of the truck. And I mean, the guys in the front of the truck didn't even know if they needed to go to the bathroom or anything like that because there was
Yeah.
no way for
Oh,
them to let them know.
oh yeah. Yeah. Well, it was pretty rough, man. It was pretty
Yeah.
like some of the guys would break down crying and ask to go home, man.
Yeah.
So we'd put
Right,
them on a train and send them home.
Well, that's
right.
why the travels, and I said it. I've been I actually known as the Canadian flag waver, Stu, for me. Well, no, but it's you know what though I say that, and I know it's probably just a reaction on the laughter, but I have been because when I
Oh, you
sit
mean
and
seriously?
when I interview gentlemen like yourself and a lot of the famous, the list is endless, but the stories are so impactful that the fans, when they do hear these stories, they truly do realize how important it is to the stars like yourself and whatnot to get a chance to listen to you. It was all worth all of it for the fans.
Oh, yes. That's true what you're saying. That's true.
That's my impact because I'm the other side, Stu, and that's why I say, and I know it's just a reaction to laughter, but when I say I have been that Canadian flag waver, Canadian musicians, I don't have to tell you, sir, I'm very versed like yourself and Ken. They have been so impactful in 50, 60-year time frame that it's amazing in so many categories, including yourself.
So I
Yeah.
mean, 1965, you're in a church rehearsing.
Yeah.
And what are you rehearsing for at 15 you're 15 years old there, right?
Yes, I was. Well, I was rehearsing to see what in the heck music was all about. You
Right.
got to remember there was no cell phones or computer in that. So they didn't teach you nothing in Catholic school about that stuff. Let me tell you that. So we were sort of feeling each other out, listening to the Who and all those old, 65 rock bands, and we're trying to figure out what they were doing and all that kind of thing. Eh?
Right. And how did that lead you towards the blues?
Well, once I started playing rock, I realized that I didn't want to play the same chords the same way every night.
Interesting.
It really, really didn't hit me right. So I started to realize I had already been listening to Muddy Waters 8-track and 4-track tapes. Do you remember a 4-track tape?
Yes, we do
Yeah.
actually.
It's still like you do, eh, man?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm actually old enough to remember that too. Actually, I Junior and I are about the same age.
There's some reel to reels, Stu. So.
Oh yeah, well, you know what I mean then. So, I used to listen to Muddy Waters, and then, well, let me just say, I saw the Rolling Stones records, and they
Okay.
would say McKinley Morganfield on the songs.
All right. Yes.
They did a lot of Muddy songs.
Yes.
So I went, who the hell is McKinley Morganfield if they're
Interesting.
writing for the Rolling Stones?
Yes.
So then I found out that was Muddy Waters.
Right.
So I started seeing what who he was and who he played with. And then I realized that Detroit had a huge blues scene.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one day there was a concert in Windsor with John Lee Hooker, and Bobo Jenkins was there. I don't know if you would have known who Bobo was.
Absolutely.
But he was the guy. He was the guy who started the blues festival in Detroit and the Blues Club.
Yes.
The first blues festival in Detroit was Bobo standing in a doorway with a cardboard sign that said Detroit Blues Festival. He stood there by himself all day and played.
Wow.
Wow.
That was the first Detroit Blues Festival. Well, he took me under his wing.
Oh.
And I became his bass player.
Okay.
And Bobo introduced me to John Lee Hooker and Chicago Pete and all the Detroit guys. So they used to have a jam at the Langston Hughes. Do you know what that is, you guys? That's a community center for Black people in the United States. There would be Langston Hughes places in the big cities.
Okay.
So at 3:00 in the morning on Saturday, it would start. So all the blues guys would come to meet Bobo because he was the president, and Bobo would bring me, and everybody would be black except me. Right downtown, man, at 3 in the morning till noon the next day, and they'd jam, and I'd sit there, and I tried to figure out,
So is that time that you had become as the Bobo Jenkins Blues Band? Is that when?
Yes, I played with the Bobo Jenkins Blues Band.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I had a place, I was telling your partner there, for 12 years where I could hire anybody I wanted.
Right.
So all the disco thing was happening then.
Disco. What is that? Disco. Oh, okay, sure.
They couldn't get a gig. So
Right.
I told him and John Lee Hooker, I says, I've got a steady gig for 12 years and I can have all the blues I wanted. So the next thing you know, I had Muddy Waters as a backup band. I had all the Detroit guys and all the real blues guys.
Right.
But I was the worst musician out of the whole bunch of them.
Wow.
So even though it was my gig, they taught me.
They made you look good.
Oh, they made me look a lot better, let me tell you. And I got to meet all the real guys. And after that, my heart was taken.
Well, how can you not when you're surrounded by, and let's face it, for those that, and I don't know why they wouldn't be versed. I mean, this is where rock and roll came from.
Yes.
Well, again, you see that being just a little bit younger, of course, my mind went to Elvis first, but we know the story on where rock and roll from there came from. So to hear it from hanging with these gentlemen that you're speaking of, did you actually, Stu, because you're obviously a little bit younger than them, did you actually,
yes.
Did you have a moment that you realized that you were actually with the great people that you're speaking of?
Oh, I knew that right away.
You did?
Because I had already listened to Muddy and Howlin' Wolf and all that, and I realized these were the same type guys.
Okay, yes.
I was so happy to be there.
Wow.
And that I didn't have to play rock and roll anymore.
Yeah. So you were like literally immersed, baptized with the blues, with all these guys
That's
around you
Yeah.
that were like blues legends.
Yes, I
Wow.
was. Yes, I was.
Wow.
Yeah,
I saw I saw Bob Seger before he was famous for 50 cents. And
right.
do you remember the Herd?
I barely remember the Herd, but
Do you
yeah,
remember Plus Two is on My Mind? A Vietnam
yeah.
protest song? That was
There
his
was
first song.
there was some disc jockey down in Detroit that was credited for playing that on their show
Okay.
that
Wow.
actually
Oh yeah,
helped him gain
a lot of
traction on that.
people helped him. He was very talented, man.
Yeah,
You
Oh,
yeah.
could
yeah,
sing
he's a
rock
favorite.
opera.
Actually, a friend of mine locally here, his ex-wife still sings with Bob Seger. You are speaking of Bob, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Laura Kramer is it that's been with him forever?
Oh wow.
The backup singer. So yeah, a huge influence. So to be around Bob, but doesn't it always, come back to what you're talking about? Uh, any of the rockers, it has all come back to the blues and rock and where it started from. The influence has been there for all of them.
Yeah, you've got to realize even the Moody Blues back then was a blues band.
Right.
That's right. That's
They
Yeah.
right.
weren't like the Moody Blues that we know
Good
of.
point.
They
Yes.
had a harmonica and they played Chicago blues.
Yes.
And then they realized that everybody was playing Chicago blues and it wasn't going anywhere for the English guys, eh?
Right.
There was a
Yeah.
period where it worked with John Mayall and all that stuff, but it soon petered out. So they started to become other things, all those guys. Ainsley Dunbar and all those guys.
Well, even look at some of the some of the early breakthrough bands that cut their teeth re-recording the blues. Led Zeppelin, for example,
Yes. Now,
right?
are you familiar with the Grandy Ballroom?
I
Mm,
can't say I am. No.
The Grandy Ballroom was the most impressive music place in the whole world.
Okay.
You could go see 3 or 4 bands for $5, and it would be Jeff Beck, The Cream, Jimi Hendrix, The
Jeez.
Doors. Everybody played there.
All right.
I'm on the cover of the MC5 when they made their first record at the Grandy. Do you remember the MC5's first record?
MC5. Wow, no,
You
I
know
do
the
not.
MC5 is?
We
No.
we could we could be rude and just kind of be radio guys and go, yeah, yeah, okay, but
Well,
we
I'll just say no, I don't
Oh
know.
polite
no,
Canadians
I
we
don't
don't
expect
know.
you to know. I don't
Educate me.
expect you to know what I know on this subject, because I'm from there, eh?
Well, and that's okay. That's why we want to know in the history of all this. That's why you're on here, Stu. Quite frankly, I have
Yeah.
to ask this question. I've been dying to ask this question. So, when was and what age were you when you bought your first Gibson Lucille?
Oh, well, I bought my first 335 in 1985.
I would have
And
thought,
then I got my first Lucille in about 95. The
okay,
actual Lucille
yes,
that doesn't have the F holes.
that's correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
Right.
I had one of those too.
okay, yeah.
So a guy
No,
bought it off me and put it in. He had a shrine in his basement, a blues shrine, and he paid me a ton of money and he bought the BB King off me for his shrine.
Wow.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
You started off as a bass player,
I played bass 30 years for black bands.
right?
Okay.
And so what were your bass guitars of choice then?
I bought a brand new Precision in 1966.
Okay, you still have it?
$187. Oh, it's a
Jesus.
horrible story. I had it 50 years, and my son, he went sort of funny, and he sold it and he passed.
Oh,
He got all screwed up, but he sold my bass I had for 50 years.
wow. That's a blues story in itself.
Oh, I got a million of those. All my guitars were stolen. If you
Oh
go on the
no.
road, they know you're a musician and it's in the truck, and they just wait till you walk away and they
Oh,
smash the window. I've had all my guitars stolen. Many
Yeah, we've
times.
had smash and grabs happen here. I've had guys tell me that, where they've been, tearing down after a gig, and somebody grabbed one of the guitars, went out the back door with it.
Yeah, all that happens, eh?
Yeah.
The real bad thing about the back door thing is the robbers like to come in the back door, and they know when you're getting paid, and they rob you just as the guy's paying you.
Oh, bummer.
I've been robbed, you name it, in Georgia. I played all over. Georgia is Atlanta. We got it real bad there. $10,000.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've had all my stuff stolen.
Gee whiz.
So many times I can't tell you.
And and if people were really, really informing themselves about who to steal from, musicians should be the last people.
That's right. If they had half a brain. So the Windsor police would buy me a new telly every time they stole my guitar.
Jeez.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And we weren't exactly on the best terms either, but they
Right.
knew I was a musician. I was important as a musician,
But you were a staple in that town.
Yes, I was. But I was crazier than a loon too,
Well, doesn't somebody have to be a little bit, spun a little bit to want to do music full time?
You could never take what I did unless you were crazy.
Oh.
You wouldn't make it. Like all the guys I used to play with committed suicide.
Oh dear.
Wow.
I'd bring them home and all their stuff would be on the front lawn, and it had been there for a month.
Oh shit, eh?
I got home one time, all my stuff was in the dumpster. The door was locked, the kids were gone. So I realized it was in the dumpster. I jumped in the dumpster, and it had been in the garbage with the dumpster for a month. And it started raining on me, and I just sat in the middle of the dumpster and cried.
Gee whiz.
You have no idea, guys.
Well, that was kind of some of the things that I was thinking about before the show tonight. Is in kind of a time of myself and Ken, the line of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. But dare I ask, in the blues, listen to the stories that go on.
We always got ripped off. Eh? We never got our pay.
Really?
We always got ripped off.
Huh?
Yeah. It's never, and it's never a good thing, and it's never cool when an artist gets ripped off, because when you break down everything that an artist does to be able to play a show, and everything involved, they're not getting paid that much.
No.
Besides, yes.
Now it's worse now than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Guys are playing with a tip jar now. They get nothing from the bar.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. We just my daughter and I just came back from Nashville, and a band down there might get a base pay of anywhere from $35 to $200, and everything else they get has to be off tips.
Yes.
Now, if you're good down there and you're on the top of your game, and you really, really work hard and hustle, you can make decent money down there, because all the bars down there, 99% of the people in the bars are tourists.
Yeah, that's right. Well, most places are tourists.
Yeah, and they're down there to party,
and clubs are depend on tourists.
Yeah, and they're down there to party, and so you put on a good show for them and hope that the patrons are going to be generous.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way.
No, I know. It's sad. It is,
Yeah, I was shocked when we were down in Nashville. The cheapest place we found for beer was $8 a beer.
Oh my God.
$8 for a bottle of beer down there. Now you can't tell me that they're not making a huge profit there.
Oh God.
Right?
And they don't give it to us.
No.
It's not going to the musician. Now, the one thing I could say for a lot of the venues that we went to down there, the drum kits were supplied. The PA was supplied. There was a PA technician that was supplied. All the lighting is supplied, and it's pretty good lighting. It's like professional grade lighting.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of almost a plug and play situation for the band. They have to bring basically their own back line, and the drummer's got to bring their breakables.
Right.
But it's kind of like going in and plugging in for a jam, and then the house guy takes care of your sound.
Yes.
And I don't know what it's like for you guys now, like in sort of in the blues, world, but down there, I saw a lot of musicians not even carrying amplifiers. They're using emulators and they're running through the PA system.
Yeah, a lot of guys are doing that now.
Because they don't have to lug any gear around. Basically, they're just lugging a guitar and that's it.
Yeah. I don't know if you'll see any blues guys doing that, though.
No, I mean, you can't get that sound out of an emulator that you can get out of a beautiful tube amp, right?
Yeah. I've got a custom tube amp. The guy who ran the Fender custom shop made me a custom amp. Bruce Zinke. Do you know who Bruce Zinke is?
I know the name, but
he made all the custom shop Fender amps.
Okay.
And then when Fender started putting crappy parts in them, you're paying $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 for a custom shop amp, and it's full of crappy parts. He quit.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So he made his own amps after that called Zinke amps.
Okay.
And he made me one, and it's just the sweetest tube amp you ever heard.
And I bet it's a very low watt tube amp, but as clean as can be. 22 watt?
22. But
I bet it's loud as fuck.
It's louder than hell.
Nice. So does he still make amplifiers?
Yes, he does, but only for his friends.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really hard to get him to do something for you.
Right.
But he's from California here, and he's known me for 20 years, so I just have to phone him up, and he's really cool with me.
I know a guy real personally who would love to get his hands on an amplifier like that.
You do, huh?
I'd be that guy. I would be lying if I wasn't saying I was that guy. I've got to cut. We use in my studio. We use nothing but tube amps here.
Yeah.
And you just can't get the sound out of a transistorized amp that you can get out of a tube amp.
I've got 5 tube amps and 5 solid states.
Right.
Now, if you pick the right solid state, you can get one to sound pretty good where if you don't want to bring your tubes.
That's true.
Yeah.
And tubes in cold weather don't get along really well.
No. But down here, I don't have to worry about that.
That's true.
How are you able to? Are the availability of tubes okay though? You can get them.
No problem? Yeah, you can find any tube you want once you know how to find.
Good to hear in today's world.
So I'm going to backtrack a little bit because we kind of got on a whole bunch of different topics there. Yeah. But so you're down in the early 60s learning your craft down in Windsor. You become a Windsor staple down there. You're playing with all these blues legends and you've got them backing you up.
Yeah.
Right. So when does Stu Heydon record his first original blues music?
Well, Wild Child and I did my first album. It was a cassette. That's how long ago it was. He helped me on my first album, and he taught me how to sing. You see, playing with Wild Child, you had to open with 3 songs, right?
All right.
So I had to learn how to sing, and he made me learn, that way. And he had a 4-octave range. So it was very embarrassing singing in front of him. Let me tell you.
A bit intimidating, no doubt, yeah.
Willie Dixon taught him. He brought me to Willie Dixon's, and I had dinner with the family in Chicago.
Gee whiz.
Wow.
I got to play with Sam Lay and Lowell Folsom in Chicago at the Blues Festival, 250,000 people.
What a thrill that would be, eh?
Well, it scared the Lord out of me. I wasn't ready for that big, between you and me.
Right. You're not the only one that has said that, though.
Oh, yeah, I bet. I'm truthful about it, I'm not into the baloney guys,
Right. You so you're doing all this. you recorded your first album. What year would that be?
Oh, that would be in the early 80s.
Okay, so all these years you're learning your craft, you're playing gigs, you're playing live. Were you playing mostly clubs?
Yeah, completely clubs and blues festivals. I
Okay.
played the first Windsor Blues Festival in 1992. I played the Detroit Blues Festival. I ended up, I played almost every festival.
I was going to ask you if that Windsor Blues Festival is even still going on, Stu.
Not that I know of.
Yeah, okay.
There was a
And
whole bunch that one of the guys got sued. Somebody
Oh,
got hurt
okay.
up the fence. And
But it
it's
wasn't
weird.
that long ago that you had been. What was it? Would I be guessing right? Maybe 2014, last time you were around that area.
I played the last blues festival 217.
17.
I
Okay.
had my 50th anniversary at the Windsor Blues Festival.
All right. So it must have felt going home. What is that like for Stu?
Weird.
It is.
Weird.
I call it being
Yeah.
a bad tourist, but tell us your experience.
Well, when I go home, you start to miss things you didn't realize you missed so much.
Right.
Like there's things where you grew up where you can't replace them. You
Yeah.
know, the local crick where you used to go fool around, or the local
Absolutely.
bird
Yes.
joint where you had your first girlfriend, and so it's kind of
Yes.
weird that,
Yeah.
because here I have no family here whatsoever,
Okay.
and everybody's new.
Okay. Yes.
Right.
Oh, I can be whoever the hell I want, and they don't know,
Okay.
who I
Yeah.
am. So I show myself to most people, but not everybody.
How did Windsor change for you in terms of what you saw when you went back there?
The blues scene died.
Oh.
What, like I was telling you before, like there was only a couple real blues guys in town. Joe
Right.
Rispoli. I don't know if you know who Joe is. He was a harmonica player, but him and I sort of kept the blues alive in Windsor at that point.
All right.
Everybody else was a rock guy, and everybody was a top 40 guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Was
the only way you could get a job.
What about Carlos
So I was
Martin?
worried
I
about
have a memory here of Carlos Martin.
Carlos. You know Carlos?
I know of the name, yes, from the industry, yes.
Oh yeah. Well, Carlos was my engineer for a while.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So
Wow, I can't
going
believe.
home, I want to stay on that subject because I think we hit a great nerve there. So going home, were the landmarks now closed, Stu, or?
There's just no blues there.
Wow.
And it makes me sad when I go home and know that all the work I did to try and promote. I started teaching blues like in the 60s to people.
All right.
Okay. And so it was very important to me that there was a blues scene at home.
Okay.
And I did whatever I could do to encourage that.
Right.
So I had it going pretty doggone good. Kelly Hoppy, Kelly Hoppy.
That
The
name.
sax harmonica player.
Yep.
Yeah, well, Kelly was a kid when I started all that, and I helped Kelly get going, and I got a lot of people going, and so when I came back, everything I had done was gone.
Right. So
And the guy,
it's time for Windsor to do like a Stu Heydon Blues Festival.
well, I had my own festival here for 12 years.
And you were telling me that before the show, yeah.
Yeah, I used to bring the Chicago guys here, and we would have workshops all day, and I teach the kids, and then I would put bands together with the pros, and the parents would get to see them play with the pros, and it was just the most wonderful thing you ever saw.
Absolutely, I guess so.
Right.
Yeah.
So your teaching is actually leaving a legacy of its own as well.
Oh, well, give me 1 second. I'll show you something.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Man, this is such an interesting interview, and I think we got to have him back on the show again because he's a really interesting guy, and my friend Don Coulter put me on to him.
Okay.
and he said you got to have him on the show. So I'm really glad we had him on tonight.
Absolutely.
There
So
we
this
go.
is what I got for teaching. Can you see it?
I see it. You got an award for teaching.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's a world award. Let
Okay.
me read it for you.
Yeah, please do.
It's an international Rotary Award in appreciation of tangible and significant assistance given for the furtherance of better understanding and friendly relations among peoples of the world. It's a
Wow.
world award for teaching.
Right.
Right. That's awesome. What an honor to have that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't even know what it was when they give.
No, but isn't that when it counts more, though, Stu?
Yeah.
You know,
So
'cause
I want.
we're not in it for the awards sometimes, if you will, but when you're recognized for something that was well deserving, I've had it myself a couple of times, so I think it means more.
So, any of your students are any of your students currently playing any places
Yes.
around where
Yeah.
you
Oh,
where
they're
you
all
teach?
over the world. I've got probably 100 kids playing all over the world. Like
Wow.
I said, Billie Eilish's band leader. I
Okay.
taught all kinds of guys. I taught many harmonica players, and one of them goes around with Charlie Musselwhite and teaches with them.
And it's such a
And
dying art, Stu, the harmonica too. So that's great.
I'm a music teacher. I can teach any instrument. I
Okay.
teach oboe. I teach saxophone. I have a wonderful studio here. The millionaire guy bought me.
Yeah, you were saying that like you had a benefactor who actually built you a really cool studio.
Clint built me one first, and I was there 6 years, and I got tired of just kids because I couldn't bring the adults there. Eh? It was a youth center.
Oh, I
Okay.
see.
So he built me a studio in the basement. I could do whatever I wanted. So I taught kids every day. I taught hundreds and hundreds of kids. And then another millionaire built me this, and it cost him $500,000. And he
Right.
pays my light bill and my insurance and my licensing fees, and never asked for a nickel.
Wow. That's crazy. How is live music down in California for you to be able to play down there?
There is some wonderful musicians.
Right.
There, like in or Carmel here in Monterey, the most the best musicians are the jazz guys.
Right.
There is some really heavy duty jazz guys, and my drummer is a jazz guy from Brazil, and I had to teach him how to just go like this, because
Oh, yes.
doing the
You
jazz,
had to teach him how to do the shuffle.
going no, Carl, So he was Stevie Winwood's drummer.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Yeah, so I get to play with the hot guys, and
No
I tell them
doubt.
what to do. And like I was telling your partner there, when I go on stage, there's no preset songs, no preset anything. I make up the songs for each gig I do.
So
Has
the
it
See,
set
always
list
real.
comes out.
Let me explain something to you. I know that sounds weird to you guys, but
No,
real blues guys never play the same way twice.
I was going to ask you that question. Wow.
Right.
Never. Real
Wow.
blues guys. The guys
Okay.
who do the same words and the same beat and all that, that's all hooey.
So it would be a ridiculous question to ask any of them, do you have a set list then, Stu?
No, there's no set list. No, there's
Okay.
no. But the musicians got to be able to hack it,
Yes.
Yeah, they
Like
got to be able to pick up the groove right away.
right away. I'll count it in and we're going.
Yes.
So I play big blues festivals, thousands of people like that.
Right.
Yeah, I opened for James Brown in Alabama. I did all kinds of stuff, man.
Right.
No,
And now you're still playing live shows, right? As well as
oh
teaching?
I play live shows. I've got a big show coming up in August in Pacific Grove. It's called in a great big park. A big deal. I don't like
Right.
the bars so much anymore.
All right.
you know, because there's not enough money for me to stay up that late.
Yeah.
That's
So I'd
true. And
rather make it in the studio.
Yes.
And I get to work with some unbelievable people here in the studio.
Right.
The drummer for Def Leppard comes here, all kinds
Rick
of people.
Allen area.
Rick knocked on the door one day, and I opened the door, and he says, I was told if I'm going to live here, I have to know you. So right away, he borrowed a drum.
Okay. Wow.
I says, wait a minute.
Yes.
he wanted to be a really good neighbor.
So I taught his wife, Lauren Monroe is her
Okay.
name, and she's
Okay.
traveling all over in her band right now.
All right.
So I gave guitar lessons to her. And Rick is a very good musician, very good drummer. And to
I
see
would
him
think
do
so.
that with one hand is so weird, man.
Yes.
How he can keep a beat, like, you know, he's got a great big groove going with one hand, and
Yep.
it's like, holy shit.
Yes.
His
So what go ahead.
didn't he adapt some of his drum kits as well to be able to use his
Yes,
feet?
he did.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly what he did. Yeah.
He has things on his drum where he just presses it, and the hi-hat will go after he hits the right hand.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it'll go automatically.
And how
Yeah, that's
respectful it
cool.
was too for the band members to wait for him to redo that. But you would
You know,
know
the
that
guy
in
good.
the school of drumming, you are either a drummer or you are not. You know,
Yes.
so obviously he was born with it to have the talent to do it with your feet. It doesn't surprise me. I recall seeing Tommy Aldridge doing a solo at one time and standing up and using his feet. It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, drumming is one of those skills too that is probably the most demanding skill of
Oh, yeah.
any person on a stage. They work physically. They're working harder than anybody else on the stage.
Oh, for sure. And the band was so nice not to dump him after he got hurt.
That is so respectful. It's incredible. Are you kidding me?
So he
I-
ended up marrying his nurse.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. He ended up marrying his nurse. That's
Wow.
how Lauren Monroe is.
Yeah, it
So-
says a lot for the band's relationship with him as well, in terms of
Yeah.
sticking it out and waiting for him to rehabilitate and be able to go back on the road with them.
Yes, they're amazing guys for doing that.
No doubt
Speaking
about
how
it.
you're talking about a drummer, of course. I'm actually holding right here, Stu. The last tour that Rush played with Mr. Neil Peart before he passed. What a influential jazz blues player himself, sir. And I was able to be with his professor, Don George. So when I say it's my favorite sentence about blowing smoke up somebody's ass, I'm not doing that to you, sir. It is a respectful thing in what you do because of. So great that you got to know and do know Rick Allen, sir.
Yeah. I got to know people I never would have thought I would ever meet, you know.
Yes, and
Like,
work with them and the wives too, right?
Yeah.
Well,
I got him a band. Oh, listen to this. I put a band here together for him.
Oh
so
shit.
he can do benefits.
Okay.
Because he's a wounded warrior guy.
Okay. Yes.
So he's always trying to do things for the wounded warriors. But
yeah,
he
I
needed
did a fundraiser for the Wounded Warriors here in Ontario, Canada. So yes, that's great.
Yeah, you know, that's a good thing. You know, like I work with wounded warriors here, and I
Well,
try.
it's stupid. I get pissed off because I didn't realize that they don't get any fundings from our governments, and it pisses me off, Stu. So when I as an MC host, I do a lot of shows in Ontario. So but the point being is when they asked me and I didn't know that they didn't get any fundings, it pissed me off. So I had to do something. I'm doing a show actually just this month or next month or at the end of the month. I'm sorry, that's going towards that cause. So my God, it's great to hear.
Yeah, it's something that you look at the way that things are, and for veterans and families of veterans who gave their lives in service. They don't. There's no real compensation for the families of veterans who gave their lives in service. I had a nephew that was in the service who actually left the service because of a lot of the way that they're treated financially from a financial point of view.
It doesn't make sense.
He lost buddies in Iraq, and the families were, given pittance for compensation.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, her husband's overseas serving his country, gives the ultimate sacrifice of his life, and she doesn't get taken care of. Her family doesn't get taken care of. He's the main breadwinner for their family,
That's
sending
right.
his money back home to his wife and kids,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
he dies in the service of his country. And what happens? Nothing. It's
It,
terrible.
it's sad.
It's a tough subject line. That's why, excuse me, but I just get right pissed off.
I think there's a blues song in there, my friend.
There you go, Stu.
I don't need any more of the material.
Let's go on a positive, because I've been dying to ask this question all night because of accomplishments. You obviously are still a proud Canadian. So back when you received your award for receiving the Blues for Canada, can I ask what that was like for you, Stu?
They put me in the Hall of Fame in
Yes.
the Canada South blues thing.
Yes.
And I got to see all my buddies that I grew up with playing.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I mean, it was surreal
Right.
to know that I actually got old enough for it to happen, first of all,
Yes.
and to look at all the crazy bastards that I played with, and they're still alive too, a lot
Yeah.
of them.
Where was it actually held at, Stu?
2015, I think it was.
You recall the venue though? I pardon my ignorance.
Oh, they had a museum.
Okay.
They make a big star for you. I don't
Yeah.
know if you know, like,
No, I
like
do know you were that you received the award, sir. I just wasn't sure on the venue.
yeah, the venue was the Canada South Museum,
Okay.
Blues Museum.
All right.
And in 1996, I won the Windsor Blues Festival Lifetime Achievement Award.
Nice.
1996.
Great
I had
honor
already
there.
played 30 years at that point.
All right.
And I won Best Guitarist in Windsor. I won a bunch of crap. But that's not why I do it.
No.
You know.
Right. I mean, the awards are just from your point of view, some recognition for the hard work that you've done for the years, but you've done it for the love of the blues.
Yeah, I didn't do it to get some stupid award. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right.
you're not a real blues guy if that's why you're doing it. You leave the ego at home, man.
That's right. Check the ego at the door.
I was just so thrilled to play real black music.
Right.
Like, I love black music.
Well, that's what I was saying at the start of the
Motown
interview.
guys would be at the dances, wherever you went, it'd be the Supremes or the Marvelettes
Wow.
and you're standing there going, holy shit,
Yes.
are they good?
Wow.
Four Tops or something at the high school dance,
Yeah.
that was common.
You
Wow.
got to pinch yourself to even believe that you're there, right?
I would think so.
When I look back, am I lucky?
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely got to be immersed
Randy,
in.
I got to see all the international guys. I saw Jeff Beck over 100 times.
Gee whiz.
Stand right in front of him. I saw him one time take his guitar and hit Rod Stewart in the face to get out of the way. He was sick of him hearing him sing. I seen some pretty cool shit. I saw Clint Eastwood's wife whack him here in the studio. I kept it. I would never play for anybody, but
oh my God!
I
Yeah,
believe it. Like
you actually worked for Clint Eastwood for a while too, right?
Yeah, I worked at his place 6 years.
Okay.
Right.
So
and
I
he's
got to
recorded
know him.
ebooks in your studio.
Yes.
Right.
I record all kind. I did the what's the state killer, California state killer? Do you know that one where the old lady found the guy with DNA? Like, I do books for Simon and Schuster.
Oh,
and like
okay.
big
Yeah.
time. play.
Right.
So I never know what the book's about until they start.
So
You wouldn't
do
believe.
they bring voice people in to do those ebooks?
Well, it's funny. You would think they would, but this is how it goes. They want the original person because it's more personable for the listener.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, they don't really. If it's a commercial, that's another story. They'll
Yeah.
bring in one of those perfect voice guys, you know.
Yes.
It's interesting because way back when, when COVID kind of shut things down, I was gifted some Neil Peart ebooks, and I was really disappointed when it wasn't Neil that was narrating the books.
Oh
Yeah,
shit.
Uh,
and
I've got
that's how it goes.
Yeah, I've got all the hardcover books, and I mean he's a great writer. I mean he wrote some really great stuff, and I was kind of hoping that he would have narrated his own books. The guy that he did get to narrate though really did narrate the way that Neil would speak. Like when you saw him in an interview, it was
Yeah.
really kind of how he would talk in an interview, even though it wasn't his voice. So if you really didn't pay attention to the voice but just listen to the story, it would be almost like Neil was telling you the story.
Wow.
Yeah, very. I think the guy that he chose, I can't remember the voice person that did his ebooks, but whoever he did choose, I mean, I think it was chosen pretty wisely.
You know, the most important person I met here as far as musical knowledge was Michael Nesmith. I did his book here.
Oh, Mike Nesmith. Yeah, that'd be cool
So
for
we
the
used to go
monkeys.
around drag racing his car. We go
Is
out
that
to
right?
lunch.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe I'm drag racing with him. I used to watch him in my
On the
jammies.
monkeys. Yes.
On the
And
monkeys, that's right.
I'm
That's
looking
right.
at him and I'm going, what the hell? I'd go to his house. I helped him with his studio, and he'd say, "Stu, what do you think of this song?" And I go,
Yeah.
"You're asking me?"
Oh.
Like I keep saying, I'm a little Windsor guy. I'm not
It's funny. I mean, I want to talk a little bit about your music before we end the show. We're like 6 minutes off the top of the hour, and
Yeah.
you have an album out called Shadow Man. That is the Stu Heydon Blues Band.
Yes, I have a new singer. She's 24,
Okay,
and her name is Nikki McCartney, and she
right.
plays open tuning blues. She plays keyboards. She writes songs. She's got a beautiful voice, and she's pretty as a picture. So it's the perfect lead singer for me for around here because you can get a job a lot easier when you got a 24-year-old girl in the band.
Yes.
For sure. I got a question for you about that as well. When I went on Spotify and I looked up your profile on your Spotify, there's one called Stu Heydon, which has all of your older works, but there's also a release from 2021 there as well.
Yes, I've got quite a few releases, whether they're on the one you looked at or not. Um, I'll tell you
Yeah,
how I
there's one
go ahead.
called To My Very Soul,
Yes, I did that in St. Louis Obispo.
right? And that when I'm
Prakash
looking at
is
it,
on you guys know Prakash, the
I
bass
don't,
player?
I
No.
don't.
No.
Oh, that's funny.
Sorry.
Do you know who the Bush was? The
Yes.
rock band Bush with
Yep.
Troy
Yeah.
on?
Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
That's Prakash.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Do you know the Lincolns?
Yes.
The
I know the
Lincolns
Lincolns.
Prakash band.
Okay.
And Jordan John, his son,
Do
they
not
are
know
really
him.
well. He opened for Aretha Franklin at the Toronto Jazz Festival.
Gee whiz. Okay.
So what? Okay, I want to just find out this difference. So there's an artist on here, Stu Heydon, which is you, and there's an artist on there, Stu Heydon Blues Band,
Yeah,
right?
they name it different all the time.
Right. Are they the same?
Yeah,
Okay, so that I'm looking at it going, oh my god, because this was because if you look at when they were launched, To My Very Soul is actually a newer release according to the launch here on the digital, compared to Shadow Man, which was released in 2020.
yeah, that's not true.
Okay.
Wrong. Yeah, that's wrong.
So Shadow Man is actually the newest one then.
Yes, it is. Yes,
Somebody's
it is.
phone's going off.
Oh, 1 minute.
Yep, it's not mine.
I can get it off.
Somebody reminding you of your next appointment.
I must have owed somebody money and they found me, you know.
Oh, God. So how new is the song Moving Up then?
And then Moving Up is, that's the last one now that I'm thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, Moving Up's the last one. Shadow Man's right before.
Shadow Man is just before that.
Yes.
Okay. So if you were to pick a favorite track off Shadow Man, what would you tell people to listen to?
Shadow Man.
Okay. So the title track off it.
Yeah. So what it is I wrote all the music and then I got Nikki to write the words.
Okay.
So she has a big part of it and I've got all the music happening for her. And
right
there's
on.
Robin Ford's bass player is on that. I've got some real heavy guys. I get to play with some real cool guys.
So are you now like promoting Nikki as being a blues artist that you want to move forward?
Well, I've always made albums with other people. You wouldn't know, because I've always had a studio, and through the years they'll ask me to play on it or whatever. Sometimes I won't even put my name on it.
And you have an engineer that comes in and does all that work.
Yeah, I have an engineer.
You are one fortunate dude that way.
Yes.
Every way, man.
I wish I had an engineer here in my studio.
My God.
I have a Japanese wife 15 years younger than me with a master's degree in nutrition. Man, I'm so lucky.
Well, then you ought to live to be 100 with somebody like that beside you.
Yes. She's always looking at anything I eat. She gives me the eye. You're not going to eat that.
At least you're still getting the eye.
You're not going to get that, or you're not going to eat that.
Eat anything that doesn't eat you first.
So before we do let you go, Stu, it's a question that's been around forever, but I still always love the question and the answer. Do you have one outstanding moment in your career that you could share with the audience?
When I played at the Chicago Blues Festival with Lowell Fulsom, let me tell you the little story. So Sam Lay was the drummer. Wild Child Butler was up there. The Iceman, which is Albert Collins. So we're all up on stage there, and we start the song. And Lowell was so out of tune, you couldn't even imagine. Is it if he just went like this? So I was freaking out because I was supposed to be leading the band.
All right.
So I thought, well, what'll I do? And there's 250,000 people looking at me. So I said, go for it, Stu. So I walked up to him. Yeah. I said, Mr. Fulsom, would you mind if I tuned your guitar? He said, best fucking idea I heard all day. I tuned his guitar in front of all those people, gave it back to him, and he knocked him dead. It was the most unbelievable thing I ever saw. He fell flat in his face, and it was like nothing happened.
Awesome.
And you got a call the next day and said, do you want to be my guitar tech?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Coco Taylor wanted me to be her lead player, and Wild Child never told me for 2 years.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
He asked if she could take me. Etta James, too. I was almost Etta James's guitar player.
Can you imagine? Jeez.
So, you win some, you lose some.
Yes.
You've been around greatness all your life. You've lived, a great career. You've got, a lot to show for it. You've got some great music out there. We want to definitely make sure that people get to hear about you, about your work, about the legacy in the world of the blues that you're leaving to this world.
Thank you, sir.
We thank you.
We thank you for your contributions.
I appreciate that.
And we want to have you back on the show.
It'd be great. I'd like to play some of my stuff for you.
All right. Well, we'll have to figure out. I'm sure your technician there, your fellow that's your engineer, he figured out this software like lickety split. So I'm sure we can
Oh
figure out
yeah,
a way that we can
yeah,
do that.
that'd
We'll
be
get you to
great.
play some stuff. That'd be cool. Yeah,
That'd be
and
great.
maybe if you want, if you want to bring Nikki on the show sometime, she's more than
Well,
welcome.
she was gonna come today, but she got the flu and she was so disappointed.
Oh,
Oh
poor
no.
thing.
You'd
Oh
love her.
man.
Like she's really sweet. She's
Right.
great. You'd
Well,
love her. She's so
you're
talented.
you're welcome to bring her on the show anytime. We're all about promoting independent artists and sharing their work with the people of the world, and that's our goal. That's our mission, and we
Well,
don't
cool.
apologize for
You
that at
guys.
all.
I really appreciate you people. You're wonderful people.
You
And
are
And
Junior,
very
you're
welcome.
and that you're
you're a
Canadian.
card, Junior. You're a card, man. I
Yeah,
can.
and you're Canadian too. On top of
Yes.
it all, eh?
Eh? Oh, I'm as Canadian as you get, man.
Well, I'll
Everybody.
leave you on that other note, Stu. You've done so well in your career. So here's that old joke. Remember that you could have had another career. You could have been a tap dancer, but you kept falling into the sink.
So the guy down below me here on the screen, that is Junior Leclerc. The guy over here, oh, hang up. Let me get this right. There he is. Stu Heydon. That is Junior. That is Stu. I am Kenny, and you are not. This has been the Indie Show. Thanks for joining us tonight, everybody. We'll catch you again. Okay, nice smiles, everybody, as we do the outro here.